MyPillow's CEO says the FBI took his cell phone and questioned him about an election case. Trump ally Mike Lindell has touted the former president's false voter fraud claims for nearly 2 years. Jonah Kaplan has more details.
Mike Lindell, he's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman here in Minnesota. He was on his way back from Iowa. The FBI meeting him here in Minnesota, but this investigation having nothing to do with Minnesota. And, depending who you ask, has nothing to do with Lindell. Lindell himself sharing with us these photos of the search warrant and subpoenas from a federal grand jury. Sources telling CBS News investigators seeking Lindell's phone because of his connections with a county clerk in Colorado, Tina Peters. I mean, do you know Tina Peters? I mean, do you even know her well? You said you met her a year ago. Are you close with her?
I met her. Well, I backed her for running for Secretary of State. She ran for Secretary of State.
Peters is pleading not guilty to nearly a dozen charges, including felonies of producing fake IDs and giving illegal access to voting equipment. Lindell, while insisting he is not under investigation, accusing the FBI and the federal government of personally targeting him for his views.
100% to send a message, because I've got the subpoena here, and it says, it's got stuff on there like in the Lindell cell phone, if there's anything with Dominion it's all about Dominion and my cell phone.
We did ask Mike Lindell, did the FBI give him any instructions, someone to talk with, someone not to talk with? He said no, and he's never received any word from federal investigators in Washington, D.C. related to January 6th. In Mankato, Jonah Kaplan, WCCO4 News.
And Dominion Voting Systems has sued Lindell and others for defamation. The company says he falsely accused it of rigging the presidential election. Well, California's Attorney General is filing a lawsuit against Amazon. The complaint stems from the way Amazon deals with third-party sellers. Now, the AG says that the retailer requires all sellers to offer their lowest prices on its platform. Merchants are contractually obligated not to list the same items for lower prices on other sites, and the complaint alleges that policy leads to artificially inflated prices on those competing websites, and it is anti-competitive. Amazon has not commented on the matter. Well, one brewery is outraged after they say a legally grown hop crop grown annually for a seasonal beer was cut down. Now, the Philadelphia Brewing Company makes a beer called Harvest from the Hood every year, and the brewery said that the hops that they grow in an 18 by 70 foot lot are an essential ingredient in that beer. However, crews that maintain vacant lots in the city destroyed the plants earlier this week. The crew apparently thought the plants were overgrown weeds, and because all of the hops were destroyed, the brewery says that batch of that particular beer won't happen this year.